Hi, this is Cathy Goodwin, and today we are going to talk about yet another career change tip. This one came from a conversation I had recently with someone who was seriously considering a career change. When people consider changing careers, they ask themselves, what next? And if they don't, you can bet someone is going to say to you, what do you want to do next? The most common answer after that is, I just don't know. And then there's a pause. And then but I've got this inkling. Now you're into pure gold. This is where career change begins. Your inklings don't come from air. They are based on knowledge and experience. Knowledge of yourself, knowledge of the real world, your own experience, your own background, the way you've experienced careers in the last 5, 10, 20 years, especially if you're at midlife, mid-career. Believe it or not, inklings are the starting point for most career changes. Rarely does career change begin with a test, an aptitude test or a personality test that promises to match you to a career. Rarely does a career change begin with a plan of action that begins with, okay, who am I? And then what's out there and how can I match who I am with my career? No, almost always we start with an inkling. So they're usually the very first point, so pay attention when they happen. And believe it or not, they are not always welcome. Examples of inklings are, maybe I'd like to go back to school and study design, or computer science, or history, or painting. Maybe I should move to Los Angeles, or Seattle, or New York, or Philadelphia, or Florida. Sometimes your inkling comes in the form of a geographic move or an area in a part of your life that is not directly related to your career, but indirectly does impact your career. I like to think of inklings as text messages from your intuition. They're short, they get right to the point, and they're very easy to ignore. Another metaphor is that inklings resemble the new plant shoots in early spring. You know how after a long, hard winter, and as I'm creating this video, I'm in the middle of a snowstorm in Philadelphia, but in the early spring, plants just start to push up through the grass. And they're very delicate, very tender. You have to be careful with them. They're easily drowned in a rainstorm or a snowstorm. And by way of analogy, when you share your inklings with someone who is not respectful, you might find that they're, to use another metaphor, raining on your parade. They're not being careful with your inklings, not realizing at this stage they're not concrete plans that you can analyze and critique. They're in the very early stages, and we have to respect them and listen to them. And we don't know at this stage if they're going to be weeds or if they're going to be winners. We usually ignore inklings because they seem like unwelcome intruders. Our first inclination, at least for most people that I know, including me, is we tend to think, oh no, this is not a winner, this is a weed, until proven otherwise. We're afraid they'll grow too fast because just as a plant, a weed can take over your yard, an inkling you might fear could take over your life. The truth is, inklings tend to move very slowly. We don't know what to do with them. That's usually the biggest challenge that people face is, okay, I kind of get this inkling I ought to do something. And does this mean I should quit my job and start doing it? Does this mean I should put it on hold for another decade? What should I do with this? My recommendation is to cultivate them. First, add sunlight. In other words, bring them into the light of day. Speak them aloud, because they'll seem different when you start to express them. Pick someone you trust, because as we said earlier, you don't want to drown them before you've really developed them, before you really understand what you got there. But bring in some sunshine. Add energy. For a plant, of course, that's water and fertilizer. But for you, that's a few steps. And I recommend very, very small steps to investigate your inkling and see what's really going on with it. And finally, observe. Some inklings fade. It's like, you have them and then a couple weeks later, it's like, what? I thought I would do what? Or another possibility is they'll just, they'll really grow stronger and bloom, and you'll say, wow, the details will start to fill themselves in. They'll take on more structure, and you'll start to really imagine yourself in a new place. the Inklings will become closer to a reality that you can actually visualize or imagine. And finally, some Inklings will turn into weeds. You'll start to see they are just distractions. They're not helping you. They're taking up space, and you just have to blow them away. If you would like to talk to me further about Inklings, I have several ways to work with clients. First, I have my website, midlifecareerstrategy.com, which has all kinds of information, a lot of free stuff, videos like this, just about anything you might want. It'll be a good way to get to know me starting there. Additionally, I have a one-to-one career consulting session that you can go to via this link. It's not just a single session because we prepare ahead of time and we have an interaction afterwards via email. Very helpful, and many people say it's more helpful than 2 or 3 months of regular coaching or consulting. It's a very good way to get started, and I recommend that for everyone before diving into 2, 3, or 4 or long-term coaching and consulting agreements. Finally, I have an ebook which is very easy to download and access. This is an ebook about your intuition and how it's used for careers, business, and relocation. Intuition is not woo-woo. A lot of people think it's along the lines of magic or wishful thinking, but the truth is that intuition actually is a part of mainstream psychology. It's been recognized by mainstream psychologists, and neuroscientists have even suggested that certain parts of our brains are activated when we're engaged in intuitive thinking. So with this in mind, I can recommend this is a good way to get started. It's got a no-brainer price, so you can download it immediately. And I would hope to see you again in a one-to-one consultation, or perhaps you'll be listening to another video or browsing around my website. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, week, and year. Thanks again.